So this is my review of the Beach Boys album Summer Days and Summer Nights. It was released in 1965 and produced by Brian Wilson. So this album I have on the 2 for CD with Today. This album's definitely kind of a disappointment after Today, since Today is such a great album and definitely kind of like shows the way towards where the Beach Boys are going. This album like has some moments like that, but it's really kind of, I guess, like I divide this album into like 3 sorts of songs. There's like really great songs, then there's good songs, and then there's really bad songs. And so this album just has like those 3 types of songs just kind of on it, and it's just kind of a really mixed bag of an album. But when you look at the history of the band and like the album release dates and stuff, Today came out in 1965. This album came out in 1965. The album I'm going to talk about next week, Beach Boys Party, came out in 1965. And Party was, from what I understand, actually just Brian Wilson being like, okay, well, I need more time to work on the album I really want to do, so here's this throwaway album to give the record company because they're demanding something. So I think that, I don't know, the record company, I feel like really kind of just, the record company's demands kind of makes the Beach Boys' early catalog not that great, because they were just making them put out way more stuff than they should have been. And just business and art, not a great combination in my opinion. At least not if you want good art. So yeah, this album, I think I think this is also the first album that has like a contribution from Bruce Johnston, at least as far as I understand. So like Bruce Johnston, he joined the band for being like Brian's live touring replacement, because I think I mentioned this last week in the review for Today. Brian eventually like stopped touring and just started staying in the studio and producing music around this time. So first they had Glenn Campbell replaced him, playing bass and singing live, and then he decided he didn't want to be in the band because he wanted to pursue a solo career, and so they got Bruce Johnston to join, and he's eventually becomes kind of more prominent in the band and definitely more important later on. But this album has like his first, at least the first contribution from him that I've noticed, which is I'll get to a little bit later. So I think this is his first album. Anyway, so the first song on the album, "The Girl from New York City," which I didn't keep really good track of who wrote what on this when I was taking my notes, but I'm pretty sure that's because like most of these songs were written by Mike and Brian, and then there's like a cover, and then there's like a couple that Brian wrote on his own. But pretty much every song I think was a combination of like Brian and Mike for the writing credits for most of this album. But anyway, "The Girl from New York City," it's a pretty short song. Can't remember exactly how long, but I think it's like a minute and like 50 something. But it's a short song. It's not a horrible song, but I think it's just kind of a pretty mediocre opening track, especially with some of the songs that this album does have on it, and with how short it is. I mean, it's kind of a nice, like, I guess, like energetic, kind of more up-tempo song to open the album with, which is kind of good. But it's just kind of it's just a song that's just, it's not bad. It's just kind of there. But as an opener, it kind of, I think, leaves something to be desired, especially when like the opener on the last album was "Do You Want to Dance," which is a great song. The second song on the album, Amusement Parks USA, is awful. This song is horrible. I wouldn't even want to try to defend this song. Like, it's not good. It's like County Fair from their first album, but worse. Which is hard, because County Fair is a horrible song. But it's even worse. This song is even worse than that song. It's just got this weird, like, I don't know, like creepy carnival-y like keyboard stuff going on, and there's just like, God, the sound effects that they do in this song are so bad. Like, there's people talking and stuff. There's like a kind of like a Circus Barker voice, which I think rumor has it was Hal Blaine doing that voice. And then there's these like laughs that just sound like a crazy person that come in like occasionally. I don't know. It's not a good piece of music. And the third song, Then I Kissed Her, cover. This one has Al Jardine on vocal, and he does a good job singing, which I mean Al usually does. Actually, when I saw them in 2012 on their reunion, Al was actually the only one that sounded like he did, back in the day. Still to this day, or at least back then, that was a long time ago now. So who knows how he sounds now? Because I haven't heard him, but then he sounded good at least. So yeah, Then I Kissed Her. I think it's a good cover. It's a good version, not like a super standout track of the song, but I think it's better than the Kiss version at least. But I don't know. It's not a bad track, but not as good as some of the ones we'll get to later. The fourth song, Salt Lake City. This is actually one I like a lot. It might have to do with more of like nostalgic things. I have relatives in Utah, so that used to be where we would go on vacations, strangely enough. But that was like, I don't know, my first time of like being out west and seeing like mountains and things. So I guess maybe it's nostalgia, but I think that this song, because well, I mean they didn't live in Salt Lake, so I don't have a really connection to Salt Lake other than I flew into to get to where they lived. But I don't know. I just always thought that the lyrics aren't that great, but the vocal melody's catchy, and the instrumentally I think it's really cool and like pretty interesting than like the backing track of what Brian is having done there. So I like the song, and I think it's one of the better songs on the album, really. And I do think that I mean, I'll briefly talk about Stack of Tracks I think next week, but this backing track's on there, and I think there's a reason, because I think it's got some cool stuff in it musically, and people might not like the song as much, just probably because of the title, I guess, maybe because it's I don't know, just kind of a obscure capital city of a random state. But I don't know, I think it's a good song. Kind of rambling. The fifth song, Girl Don't Tell Me, was one of the songs that was written, I think, just by Brian himself. It's got lead vocal from Carl Wilson. I think this is one of his first. I think he kind of might have sung along with somebody on the first album, but I think this is his first lead vocal on his own, maybe on a Beach Boys album. But Carl's a great singer. He sings lead on a lot of their great songs later on. And this song, it's kind of I feel like it's like a tribute to the Beatles' Ticket to Ride. You can definitely hear the influence of that song on this one. But I think it's a cool song. It's got just cool jangly guitar. It's one of the ones that I think from around this time period is the whole band playing, which is kind of different from for the albums around this time. And Carl's got a great vocal on it, and I think it's kind of one of the standout tracks of the album. Not on the level of the next two really classic songs, but it's one of my more favorites on the album. The sixth song, Help Me Rhonda. So not the same Help Me Rhonda that was on today, but this is the version that more people are familiar with. I think the single version, where they kind of they took that version and just improved it. And this is where the album has two songs right in a row that are the level of songs that could be on today. These two songs are probably, I feel the only songs on this album that would have made today. The rest of the stuff on this album, I feel they probably, if they had been recorded around the time of today with all those tracks and they were looking at the material, they would have been nah, these aren't good enough, let's leave them off. These two songs would have been good enough, but well, I mean, Help Me Rhonda was already on it, but just in a different version, which wasn't as good. So it's another Al lead vocal. I don't know. Was definitely, I think, one of the early Beach Boys songs that I knew because I was familiar with it even before the first time I heard it which was actually on the Greatest Hits album that I got before getting all their albums. And and it's a little repetitive in the chorus, which is going to help me around over and over again. And usually I don't like a lot of repetitive stuff in songs, but I really like this one. So then the seventh song, California Girls, which another one of those just like classic Beach Boys songs that I basically already knew before getting into the band. But I don't think I had ever really like sat down and listened to it and appreciated it, especially musically for what it was. I think it's one of Brian's favorite, if not maybe Brian's favorite song, and it is just great song, like just like actually kind of quite a bit better than most of the other stuff on this album. So that's another reason why this album is so weird, because it's like they stacked like the two best songs in the middle of the album. Like I don't know. I think that, well, I mean, wouldn't help like the overall quality of the album that much, but like maybe the album would be like a little more like flow a little better if they stuck these songs like at the beginning. At least, I mean, California Girls would make a better opening track than Girl from New York City. Yeah, just a great song, classic. It's actually the moment where Bruce Johnson, like, you can hear him singing towards the end, and I think like, I don't know, that's the first time in the like studio Beach Boys records that I can pick him out in particular. So I'm not sure if it's the first time he was on the record with them, but first time I can identify. So yeah, just a great song, and then everybody's probably heard it already, so probably not much more use saying much about it, or much more about it. Ugh, can't talk. The eighth song, Let 'Em Run Wild. Another one I really like. I think it's got a really cool vocal from Brian, where he's just doing his like super high pitched singing stuff, which I love. Brian's voice is crazy good, at least in my opinion. The ninth song, You're So Good to Me. Another one I like a lot, and like these two songs, right, or they kind of remind me of each other, and I didn't write a lot down about You're So Good to Me because I just couldn't really think of a lot to say about it. I like it a lot, but it's kind of, it and Let 'Em Run Wild are both like songs. I don't know. I feel like they could have benefited from like a little bit more time of the band like working on them, or a little bit more time writing on them, because they don't seem like quite as good as Help Me Rhonda and California Girls, but they're just like a little bit below that. Like with a little bit of work, maybe they could have got to that level. The 10th song, Summer Means New Love, is an instrumental by Brian. And I like it when it's on. I think it's pretty cool sounding. It's got some cool like guitar bits and stuff. But it's an instrumental. It's Beach Boys instrumental, which I'd rather hear them sing than instrumentals. But that said, I mean, the kind of stuff he was coming up with musically was pretty interesting at this time. So I do like it quite a bit. The 11th song, I Bugged at My Old Man. It's kind of a joke song, but really sort of in a sad way, because I'm not sure if this version, I've seen a live version where it was just, Brian at the piano and Carl and Dennis singing backup, and I think that's how they recorded it here, with Brian singing lead at the piano and Carl and Dennis singing backup. I don't know, if you know the whole story of them and their family and stuff, and the way Murray, their dad, was towards them, it kind of takes all the humor out of this song. And kind of makes it into something kind of a little bit disturbing and dark in a way. But I don't mind it. Like, it's not great. It's clearly just kind of meant to be a silly toss-off song, but I think it is kind of, I mean, Brian, even when he's kind of just screwing around, still sounds kind of good singing, and I don't know, it doesn't really like take away from the album for me. And then the final and 12th and final track, Your Dream Come... Wait, I can't read my own writing. What's it called? Oh, And Your Dreams Come True. This one I honestly couldn't remember at all before listening to it today. And that's probably because it's not like an acapella thing, and it's nice. I mean, it's nice whenever the Beach Boys do like their acapella thing because, like I said, or like I mentioned before, I think that they're like the best vocal group ever. Like, so I love when any of their singing, but it's just a little bit forgettable. So, Summer Days, Summer Nights overall, I think I give it a 3 out of 5 because it's got some really strong stuff on it. It's got some okay stuff on it, but it's just a really mixed bag. Like, it's not a very cohesive album. It sounds like it was rushed. Like, it doesn't sound, I don't know, like this album doesn't sound like a band setting out to make an album. It sounds like a band that was just like, oh, we need an album, and we've got 2 really good songs and some good songs, and then we've just got to come up with some stuff to put on there. That's kind of what this album seems like, and from what I understand, that's kind of what it was. So not a bad album, but not great. Today's definitely better, but having it on this 2 CD kind of helps that.